President Trump ordering a drawdown of troops in Iraq and Afghanistan by January the 15th, just 5 days before he's set to leave office.
President Trump understood that the way to end those wars was to adopt a peace through strength approach to the world. He rebuilt the American military, which had been decimated by defense sequestration under the Obama administration.
This is why I'm enormously blessed and privileged to stand before you today to outline the next phase of our campaign to defeat terrorists who have perpetrated attacks on our homeland, including those who help and harbor them, and to prevent future acts of terrorism against our nation.
Mr. President, as we wrap up here, are there UFOs?
We now have created a military, the likes of which we've never had before in terms of equipment, the equipment that we have, the weapons that we have, and hopefully, hope to God, we never have to use them.
Hey guys, PayDroV here. In this video I want to talk about a lot of things actually. The spiritual warfare is manifesting more and more. So let's start quickly from last month to Halloween, leading into November and heading into December.
People on different islands reported seeing these strange lights in the sky on Saturday night shortly after 10 o'clock. Now we're told since it was traveling east, people on the Big Island and Maui probably got a better view.
What is that, guys? What is that?
And I started videotaping, and when they got closer, that's when I started freaking out because I'm like, oh, what in the world is this? We actually didn't even know what to think. We didn't know what it was, where it came from.
Everything is being aligned right now on direct timing for the rituals, sacrifices, and everything is on the table right now.
Bro, crazy as fuck, bro. Bro, UFOs. What the fuck? Imagine they just disappeared. Oh, this is crazy, bro. Yeah, where'd the other one go?
Huh?
Where'd the other one go?
I don't know, man. Shit's crazy.
What the fuck? Oh!
They're disappearing, bro.
Where'd they go?
So you can see a direct pattern, and now scientists supposedly discovered a hell planet.
So, you think 2020's been tough? It's been tough to live here on Earth? Well, there's another planet outside our solar system.
And it's hot as hell. I say that because they're comparing it to hell.
Most people calling it hell planet. Yikes.
But those who know about the firmament know about the truth. We know about the lies. NASA, they know the truth, and knowledge and information has been suppressed for a long time. The more one observes, the less one has to ask.
And I became convinced that NASA and other international space agencies are involved in a cover-up.
What's the cover-up that you think is involved in all of this?
Well, I don't think Donald Trump is involved in a cover-up, but I do think he is surrounded by a faith community, and many of those are prophecy believers, and he has wisely allowed his ear to be attuned to some of the things they are telling them. And I know some of these people, and I've been told that they were whispering in his ears about Apophis as potentially being the wormwood asteroid of Revelation chapter 8.
To me, this is all part of the programming, manifestation, and symbolism to the spiritual war. Let's talk about this story. It says here, parents of 666 migrant children missing higher than originally thought.
Reporting that lawyers working to reunite families under the Trump administration's child separation policy cannot find the parents of some 666 migrant children separated from their parents at the border. That is more children than we previously were told by the government, whose parents have not been located.
Now they're doing this right in our faces. 666 is the number of the beast.
What is the symbolism of the number of the beast? From movies about the Antichrist to speculation on modern developments, the number 666 has had a fearsome connotation as long as there's been a book of Revelation that's connected to the expectation of the rise of the Antichrist.
So symbolism and numerology can also track the breadcrumbs to what they are showing, and a lot of it has to do with the programming. People also say symbolism will be their downfall. You can only imagine what is truly going on behind the scenes. So this is a war for the souls, the children, you, me, everyone.
Singing, chanting, and shouting at outdoor gatherings are, quote, strongly discouraged due to the higher risk of COVID-19 transmission.
So now we have to shine light on these things, because at this point, it's just mockery and there's no coincidences.
The CDC, flat out, don't travel. Don't go anywhere for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and people are calling this the November surprise. So this is what the CDC said. To my knowledge, they have not made recommendations this strong, certainly in the last 50 years. And they're also urging extra precautions, really for the first time, within our homes if people are coming and gathering for Thanksgiving. So that means opening windows, turning fans on over the stove, and wearing masks indoors. They are being very, very strong with these recommendations.
Now, since these holidays are coming up, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and even New Year's, this is all making a pathway for their control and the restrictions.
For the last 8 months, I have been asking Oregonians to follow the letter and the spirit of the law, and we have not chosen to engage law enforcement. At this point in time, unfortunately, we have no other option.
And I know Christmas also will be here before we know it. Do you expect the CDC's guidelines for that holiday to be similar to your Thanksgiving guidelines?
So we'll be pulling together different recommendations across the different holiday celebrations as well as the new year, making recommendations of how to do that as safely as possible. The recommendations have always been wear a mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. So unless we learn something different, those will be the general recommendations.
The coronavirus emergency and the scramble to get tested before Thanksgiving.
The Thanksgiving holiday will be unlike any other, with a huge surge in COVID-19.
Now, there are no restrictions for when you fly out, but there are steps you must take when you return.
The State National Guard is here at the airport, and they're interacting with passengers, making sure that the travel health forms are filled out when they arrive.
Tonight, concern among health experts as college students get ready to spend Thanksgiving with their families.
Before Thanksgiving, thousands of college students are leaving campus to travel home. With our high concentration of colleges and universities, Massachusetts sees a lot of traffic for students leaving campus and students coming back to Massachusetts from other states. This migration has school officials, state officials, public health experts, municipal officials, and many others very concerned this year because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The students that come through here for COVID-19 tests can receive 2 tests. The first one is that rapid COVID-19 test, and they can get results as soon as 15 minutes after their test is over. The second test goes to the lab for processing.
This is my first time getting a COVID test. It was a little strange at first, definitely having to put something up your nose. Definitely felt weird for the first time doing it. It wasn't as bad as I expected, though. I've heard a lot of horror stories. But obviously there's a reason that they're pushing it at a lot of universities, trying to keep us safe, trying to keep the community safe.
Is life worth living without Thanksgiving?
Exposing the elite's playbook, the Trump card. This is all orchestrated and planned in such a way that almost everyone is easily deceived to what is really going on. Now, you can either see this as one way or another, but this is their game plan.
You know, let's just watch this happen. It'll be over soon, and we'll be ready for the transition.
I told the president-elect he can count on complete cooperation from my administration as he makes the transition to the White House.
The peaceful transfer of power from one freely elected president to the next.
Today, I would like to provide the American people with an update on the White House transition.
I committed to President-elect Trump that my administration would ensure the smoothest possible transition, just as President Bush did for me.
So we've come together, we're coming together. We've never had a thing happen like this. We were all, including the media, we were all in uncharted territory. We were uncharted. Never happened before. Nobody knew. I couldn't be sure. I felt it. I felt we were very powerful to come back.
You say the establishment is against you.
Why do you say that?
Well, I think the establishment actually is against me, but really coming online. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. As an example, just one single trade deal they'd like to pass involves trillions of dollars controlled by many countries, corporations, and lobbyists. Well, thank you all very much. It's a very important day. I'll sign the single biggest economic relief package in American history, and I must say, or any other package, by the way. So you're talking about a $6.2 trillion bill, nothing like that. And this will deliver urgently needed relief to our nation's families, workers, and businesses. You know, look, at a certain point, you got to make deals. We can't have a guy who stands in the middle of the Senate floor and every other senator thinks he's a whack job, right? You know, you have to make deals. You have to get along. That's the purpose of what our founders created. Look, it's very sad. I heard 59 planes flew in from all over the world. These are people that are taking advantage of our country. These are people that I know, many of them. I can even look at their plane and say, who owns this one, who owns that one? I know them. And they're all flying in because, you know, they don't want to have strong borders. They want stuff flowing across the borders. They don't want to have taxation when countries treat us unfairly because they benefit from that. And we have to. Otherwise, we're going to continue to lose our businesses. Hardest decision I ever made was when they all walked in, a big group of people, professionals, very professional people, good people. They said, sir, the best thing we can do is close it down. I said, what are you talking about? We have this incredible, unbelievable country that's never done better, and you want us to close it down? I can't do that. What are you talking about? And after listening for 10 minutes, didn't take long, I said, I think we have to close it down.
The fake news media, failing New York Times, NBC News, ABC, CBS, CNN, is not my enemy. It is the enemy of the American people.
We are already beginning the transition. We're well underway.
He's a servant of the wealthy donors, globalists, and special interests who got rich bleeding America dry. And by the way, I could call these guys, every one of them would give me millions. I'm president. I call heads of Wall Street firms. I'd say, hey, do me a favor, could you give me $5 million, every single one? I can't do that, though, because you know what? If I do that, I got to do things for them, and I don't want to do, I want to do what's right. I could raise more money. Because of the contagion and because of the power it had with especially certain people. Now, we didn't know the second part. We knew it was highly contagious because it spread like fire. It's like a magnet.
He's an unconventional candidate. I don't think there's anybody who's run a campaign like his successfully in modern history, not that I can think of.
You would have to admit this is one of the strangest transitions in history.
It's unusual. I'll agree with that.
Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster.
Because he didn't have the supports of many of the establishment in his own party, because he ran sort of a improvisational campaign.
All right, but you know, when you look at the way that it's played, right, and you look at the way that Mr. Trump, you know, presents himself and his business record, why not just say, look, you know what, we didn't do well in Colorado, instead of every time he loses say, oh, well, it's rigged, the system is rigged. I think a lot of people see through that.
Well, I think a lot of people do see exactly what's happening, and it's not just on the Republican side either. And a lot of people are now aware that the system that is in place is reeled against the people.
I'm letting them know that America's back. We're going to be back in the game. It's not American alone.
Now we're beginning to look like we're a banana republic. It's time for them to stop the nonsense.
So what are the most important parts of the transition that needs to happen now?
Well, the most important thing, Gail, is recognizing how little time you have. I started that article with something we learned from President Obama's memoir, which is that on the day he was being inaugurated, there was a terrorist threat. He had a passage in his speech that he was going to pivot to if the threat went forward, telling people how to evacuate. He was barely president, and he was already facing a live mass casualty event. When you get into the presidency, the number of challenges on the national security front in particular are huge, and Joe Biden comes in with a set of challenges. That's for any president. Joe Biden, of course, faces the pandemic, the economic unrest, and so he has a bigger to-do list than a normal president would.
But that's the point Mr. Trump is making. It's not about time. It's not about who was on the ground for the longest. It is about the selection process.
I think everybody has to acknowledge, don't underestimate the guy, because he's going to be 45th president of the United States.
There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation. The ballots are out of control. You know it. And you know who knows it better than anybody else? The Democrats know it better than anybody else. Go ahead.
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration.
State Pompeo. Secretary of State Pompeo.
Secretary of State Pompeo is extremely busy, so if you have any question for him right now, could you do that? Because you know what I'd like to do? I'd like him to go back to the State Department, or as they call it, the Deep State Department. You don't mind? I'd like to have him go back and do his job. So does anybody have any question? Please.
Why do you think the Justice Department isn't being more aggressive in following up on what you see?
I think the Justice Department has known about this issue for a long time and turned a blind eye to it.
Why then?
I wonder how much the CIA actually had a role in starting this kind of program to begin with, to use on other countries.
Why would Donald Trump's Justice Department not be interested in this?
Well, you know, I wish Donald Trump had as much control over the Justice Department as people think he does. It's taken on a life of its own. I don't think even Bill Barr has the control over the Justice Department that he would like to have, because there are so many lawyers in so many different places doing whatever it is they want to do and ignoring the standards and practices that historically created the Justice Department to seek justice and not convictions. I mean, I wrote a book about that back in 2014.
Let me ask just...
I mean, we've been on this increasingly bad path for decades now, and it's done nothing but get worse because nobody's told the truth and stood up for the truth. But Americans are now.
Sydney, what's...
And it will be biblical.
Biblical.
More than 130 U.S. Secret Service officers assigned to protect President Donald Trump have been sidelined by COVID-19, according to the Washington Post. 2 U.S. government sources confirmed to Reuters that Secret Service officers had tested positive for the virus, but they did not say how many.
And so now he's in the process of building up an organization. And we'll have to see how that works. And it'll be a test, I think, for him and the people that he's designated to be able to execute on his vision.
Our oath to uphold the Constitution is tested by hard times, not easy ones. Last-minute changes to long-standing election rules risk other problems too, inviting confusion and chaos and eroding public confidence in electoral outcomes.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt, and when I say corrupt, I'm talking about totally corrupt, political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people.
72 million people voted for Donald Trump. What does that say to you about the state of this country?
Well, what it says is that we are still deeply divided. The power of that alternative worldview that's presented in the media that those voters consume, it carries a lot of weight.
It takes sacrifice, but there is joy in it, and there is progress, because we, the people, have the power to build a better future.